So if Hannibal was having trouble feeding his army while marching across Europe, how did he keep his troops fed during long campaigns in Africa? Well, like most armies throughout history, Hannibal relied on logistics to feed his troops. Logistics is the science of supplying an army with everything it needs to fight, including food, water, ammunition, and medical supplies. Without logistics, an army is nothing more than a mob of angry people running around in the wilderness. Even today, the US military spends more on logistics than it does on weapons and equipment combined. This is because moving stuff is hard, and making sure that the right stuff is in the right place at the right time takes a lot of coordination. In the ancient world, there was no refrigeration or modern means of preserving food, so armies had to get creative in order to keep their troops fed. One way to preserve food for long periods of time is to cook it, and then dry it out. This process is called desiccation. When food is desiccated, it loses most of its moisture content, which makes it very difficult for bacteria and other microorganisms to grow on it. Desiccated food can last for many years if it is stored properly. Another method of preserving food is to roast it over an open fire. This process is called roasting. Roasting food kills off most of the bacteria in it and makes it safe to eat. Roasted food can last for several months if it is kept dry. Hannibal's army most likely used both desiccation and roasting to preserve their food. They would have cooked large quantities of food over open fires and then dried it out or roasted it to make it last longer. This type of food would have been very bland and tough, but it would have been a necessary sacrifice in order to keep the troops fed during long campaigns. But there is another possibility. Ancient historians tell us that Hannibal's army lived off the land while they were marching through Europe and Italy. If this is true, then Hannibal probably didn't even bother to preserve his food because he knew that his troops would be able to find enough to eat in the wild. However, this would not have been possible in Africa where there was not enough wild game to sustain an army of 10,000 men. Therefore, Hannibal most likely used some sort of preservation method in Africa in order to keep his troops fed.